Hello. Well, I'm back on the River Thames. I'm starting my walk today from the Woolwich ferry, and I'm going to finish at Northfleet. The first half of my walk is along the Thames Path extension, so for about the first 8 miles follow that to Crayford Ness. After watching several videos and one or two people's comments, I decided that I'm going to try and walk all the way out to the Thames estuary, not today, out to Grain. So I'm going to do the Thames hopefully from source to sea. The reason I started from the Woolwich ferry is because when I finished the Thames Path I carried on up to Woolwich to get on the station, so I'm getting back on the Thames where I left it after my last time. I'm now walking past the Royal Woolwich Arsenal, which from 1671 to 1994 was an ammunitions depot where they developed munitions and built guns and stuff like that. Got pretty heavily attacked in the Second World War and was pretty busy in the First World War. When it got sold off by the military, it obviously got developed into housing and stuff like this. So there's another reason why it's famous as well, because in 1800 and something, this is where the Arsenal football team evolved, hence the name the Gunners, because they're related to this spot. There's some fine old buildings here. Anyway, there's another bit of a sadder side to this, which I'll tell you when we get a bit further along the river. These blue signs are the signs for the Thames Path extension, and you can see it says England Coast Path. Well, that's what I'm hoping to follow all the way to Grain. To Margaret Ness, which is a corner of the Thames, a sharp corner in the Thames, and I said I'd say about a more miserable part of the Arsenal. So around here from 1776 to 1857, if there were ships that were not seaworthy, they moored them here and then they used them as floating prisons. But they were just hot houses for disease and that. Apparently 1 in 3 prisoners died of, I don't know, various diseases. I think they were pretty disgusting. And yeah, they're pretty infested. I think the last one burnt down. They feature in Dickens' book, was it David Copperfield, I think it is? No, Great Expectations, that's it, Great Expectations. So they're in there. But the other thing as well is I've got to look at my book again, 1878, there was a pleasure steamer coming around the bend here, and it hit a coal, I think it was a coal barge, and sunk. The pleasure steamer had something like 900 passengers in it, and well, they all ended up in the Thames. But when they built the first sewage system in London, it spilt all its sewage out a little further up the Thames. So all round here was just like this poisonous, foul, horrible, disgusting muck. And virtually all of the passengers and crew that were on the pleasure boat died, either drowned or they died of poisoning from drinking the water. So after that, they decided or knew that they'd have to build proper sewage works, which are further round. And when we get further round, we'll see the pumping station that was originally built for the sewage works. It used to pump all the stuff into the Thames, but then pumped it into the sewage works, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it's a bit of a tragic corner of the Thames, really, just round here. I've come across this old pillbox. Must be something left over after the Second World War. And then that structure over there is the Thames Barrier, which guards the entrance to the river Rodding, and it can be lowered to prevent flooding at high tide. All the rubbish that gets washed up by the tide of the Thames. See that coconut down there? After walking past the pre-uninspired 1960s housing estate and yeah, some heavy gravel workings and that on the other side of the Thames, I've come to Joseph Bazalgate's famous one of his famous pumping stations. There's 3 of them, which were built in the 1860s, and these were built to pump the sewage up from the sewage pipes and out and into the River Thames initially, but after the pleasure boat disaster, which I told you about, they changed it and they made sewage works instead, treatment works. And this is the new modern sewage treatment works, and I think the Tideway Tunnel, which I've talked about in some of my other videos, I think that comes out here as well. And there's going to be a massive great holding tank built, or they're building one, to hold the sewage when there's an overflow because of the rain, and then it'll hold it and then treat it when the sewage when it drops down to normal levels. You understand what I'm saying? That in front of me is where they bring some of the rubbish from London and burn it, and they use it to generate electricity, which I think is a really good idea. And I guess they cart the refuse away in barges. I don't know what's left over from the burnt matter. Believe it or not, this is Crossness Nature Reserve. It's a bit small and piddly, isn't it? Oh, in the midst of all this industry, and I guess that is where they burn the gases from the sewage works to generate electricity. There's the Thames. I was thinking as I was walking along, we just get the old dust people to take our rubbish away in bags and flush our toilets, and we don't think much about it, do we? But it's all got to end up somewhere, isn't it? It's all got to be dealt with. Try and create as little pollution as possible. I think they sort of try and catch the CO2 gases generated from it. How successful that is, I don't know. Okay, so I've just read that jetty is where they bring a lot of the rubbish to the incinerator. That's what it's there for, so it's for bringing it in, not taking it out. I don't know if you can see it over there. Well, that's the Ford Dagenham Motorworks just behind that boat. There's nothing like as big as it used to be. I think in the 1970s that's where they used to make the Ford Escorts. We used to call them the Dagenham dustbins. I keep looking for a bit of driftwood to make a shelf with. There's plenty of driftwood along this part, but nothing really of the sort of size and shape I want. Well, I've got to say, this part of the Thames is pretty bleak. On my right, there's just loads of industrial units. It's very quiet, so I guess that's because it's Saturday. But yeah, they're pretty uninspiring. And even over to my left, there's a hill that looks green, but apparently it's a landfill site. But I think they're gonna, when they finish with it, make it into a nature reserve. And I think even on there they capture the gases that are generated by rotting rubbish and use it to generate electricity. Well, it don't get any prettier. This is Erith Deep Water Jetty in front of me there. But yeah, so I've left the Thames now and just walking down the High Street. I think it might be a district called Slate Green, or it might be Erith. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. This bit's a bit better. I've now come to what is the last remaining part of the official London salt marshes. Crayford Ness is just up there. Yeah, and I'm walking along a seawall created obviously to dry up the marshland where all the horses are. There's still loads of buildings, industry around about, but also it's nice to have a bit of greenery in there. That there is the radar that monitors the shipping coming up and down the Thames from, well, coming into the Thames, out of the Thames from the estuary. Thought you might like to know that. Well, this, according to my official guidebook, is the official end of the Thames path. But to be honest, I wouldn't bother. At least the Thames Barrier is a landmark of some significance. This is what do you want to say? Behind me is the River Derwent, and the path carries on the other side, which is just over there, literally. But there's no bridge, so I've got to walk about half a mile down or upstream to find a bridge, to cross it, to come half a mile back upstream. Yeah, there we go. Never mind. Made it to the other side of the River Derwent, and that was a major detour just to get over this river. Wish they'd build a bridge. Much too late now, I've done it, haven't I? But oh man, must take an hour and a half that. But Yeah, walking along by the river is probably the most pleasant part of the walk so far. There's the Queen Elizabeth II bridge, Dartford crossing. It's surprising how much of an incline it is going up and over. I did it yesterday. I went over in a lorry. I think I'm doing it Monday as well. Look at them two big ships. I think they're ferries. I don't know if you can make it out, but that one that's facing the other way has got vehicles going in and out of it. There we are. Massive. The walk from the Thames River to here, it's been really beautiful. Just really peaceful, green. Enjoyed it. Well, I've been over the Dartford Bridge a few times. This will be the first time I've been under it. Probably the last as well, I think. Oh, what a massive chunk of concrete that is. That is definitely megalith. That's steel. It's such a huge thing. I don't think you get to really appreciate it till you go under it. I've only just come downstream from the Dartford crossing, but look how wide the river's become. There's a serenity about it, despite the fact it's surrounded by industry. We're now passing the not so famous pyramids of Kent. We've come from the industry back into suburbia. Look at that boat. That's something, isn't it? Check it out from the other side. Just a little detour along Quiet Street. There's another old barge. This one looks like it's been made out of concrete. Amazing. I've got past all the flats and built up area, all the residential. Now I've come out onto Swanscombe marshes. Bit of greenery. Well, I guess for about the past half hour I've been walking through these marshlands. They definitely feel like somewhere off the beaten track, or somewhere that time has forgotten, or people have forgotten. It feels a bit wild and desolate, kind of place where you might dump a body or something like that. But I'm sure nobody ever does. So, walk through this marshland, I think, and then come into another built up area, and I'm finished, I think. Definitely should get there by 5:30, which is good. My train is 6:30, so back into factory land. But got a nice green path to walk along. I'm coming into Northfleet. All I've got to do now is find the station. It's a bit funny to be back in the hustle and bustle of vehicles, because despite all the messiness, it's been quite peaceful most of the time. The roundabout behind me is where I leave the National Trail Path. So this is the end of my walk, this section anyway, and when I do the next bit, I'll start from here. Anyway, thanks for being with me, hope you liked it, see you next time, take care, bye.